God damn it, come on.
To make the mayor recall.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
Oh, I gotta turn it on. It's all right.
I forgot.
Go ahead.
All right, everybody. Quiet. All right. Welcome to the College of Complexes. This is the playground for people who think. The college consists of the following format. We'll have a brief announcements period, and I mean brief and only announcements, followed by our speakers tonight, followed by a Q&A session, and then followed by a rebuttals session, and then a final rebuttal by the speakers. There are 2 rules here at the college, one full at a time, which means if you're not talking, your mouth is closed, and no personal attacks. So we'll go right into the announcements. Come on up if you have an announcement.
Okay, we're gonna let I gotta go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll get Charlie in next.
This Thursday at 7, Mark Z. Jacobson will be talking about the production of hydrogen from methane and from water using electricity and using frac gas, and what it costs and what it's worth and what it can be used for. 7 o'clock. And my email is janbudar1@gmail.com. That's JAN, B like baby, OUDART, the numeral 1, at gmail.com. And if you'd like to listen to this program, please send me an email and I will send you an invitation. And my little slogan about Mark Z. Jacobson is that he knows more about the atmosphere than God, and he has written and maintains a textbook on the atmosphere. So if you want to listen to a real scientist and author,
I'm good. I got iced tea.
if you want to listen to a real scientist and author about one of the major things that is being supported by the government and industry that is a big scam, please come at 7 o'clock Thursday.
Okay, Charlie, I accidentally muted you. Go ahead. We'll get the screen up, and you have to unmute. I muted you by mistake. Go ahead.
All right. Welcome to meeting number 3,810 of the College of Complexes, the playground for people who think. Now, we maintain some email lists. If you'd like to get on it, we've got a Google group as well as an internal list. Please contact me if you'd like to get on it. Now, although I'm not a capitalist, I will give an advertisement for our upcoming programs. On March the 29th, Eric Mao, a political analyst, will be speaking tonight as well as next week on the topic of wealth distribution around the world, a very important topic, all about wealth in the world. Transitioning into April the 5th, the Illinois Single Payer Coalition is looking to expand Medicare, universal medicine within the United States. Bill Biaggi, so healthcare issues on April the 5th. April the 12th, we begin our series of special Earth Day speakers. We're going to be hosting the Illinois Environmental Council on April the 12th, and on April the 19th, I will be giving you a short quiz question and answers. I'll give you the answers in advance. We'll discuss them. But it will be determined if you have a green view of politics. How green are you? Okay, also in April, we're gonna welcome former US Congressperson Marie Newman, who's gonna give advice to activists and how to start a movement. Should be a good program. That leaves open 4 dates in May. We're looking for a special May Day speaker on socialism or organized labor. Okay, and I have one other announcement. If you'd like to attend a meeting of the Chicago Democratic Socialists of America, the meeting will be tomorrow on Sunday at 12:30. It'll be at the hotel at Madison and Halsted if you'd like to attend in person or contact me for information. Thank you. Thank you. Take it away.
All right,
Any
Just-
more announcements?
any more announcements? Okay, go ahead and let's get introduced.
All right. Tonight's program is a open microphone. We got 3 keynote speakers who will be speaking on the topic, what can you do to make the world a better place? After our speakers who have up to 20 minutes to explain what they think they can do, folks in here will have up to 5 minutes to also give your ideas on what you can do to make the world a better place. Our speakers this evening, Robert Lichtenbert, Ernie Norman, and Eric Mao. And we'll begin this presentation with, we'll go with Ernie because it looks like Mr. Lichtenbert is eating dinner right now.
I don't think Ernie's logged in yet.
Okay, then maybe is Eric Mao?
Eric, are you ready to go? Eric,
He's en route.
okay, I'll have to go with Mr. Lichtenberg first.
Are you want to eat or you want to go? He's eating.
Okay, Eric, are you ready?
He's en route.
Okay.
He hasn't arrived yet.
Eric's en route. Okay,
All right. Well, Professor Lichtenbert is eating right now.
Then-
So yeah, we'll start. Well, we can start this open session while we're waiting for our keynotes to come in. All right, let's go.
all right, go ahead, sir. All right, Mike.
Try to be prepared for anything, and usually I do not. Okay, what can you do today to make the world a better place? We'll all have time to speak. All right. I wrote down a few things. Okay, so I think we're having problems with Washington DC and just the whole structure. So right now we got 2 guys in
Microphone.
charge. Huh? Microphone? We have 2 guys in charge of the country, Musk and Trump. And Musk comes out of this goofy California break everything mentality, which he's trying to do. And I don't trust people like that because certain institutions and departments. Can you hear me now?
Yes, a little better. Just speak normal.
Why is it so tight? This wire.
Is there something different than what we do? Like
No, there's nothing different. He's speaking low, that's all. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we can hear
You're
you.
not saying anything.
What?
You're not saying
Come
anything.
on.
Just-
Will you
come on,
tell
Mike.
her to speak?
You were complaining a minute ago about not hearing them, dude. And other people in here can't hear them.
All right, start again.
Okay, so we got two idiots in Washington DC that are people elected, half of our people. So this Musk guy comes out of this goofy California theory of breaking everything. And the institutions in Washington don't need to be broken because a lot of people depend on it, and a lot of systems and a lot of infrastructure depends on not breaking things. So this kid Musk, who grew up, I guess, a billionaire or a million, whatever, who's probably never driven a car, who drives around in jet planes with Trump driving around. I have no idea how a common person lives. Anyway, so Republicans are giving these guys the green light, but the Supreme Court seems like it's stopping, and other judges are stopping some of these really bad ideas, which is good. We got some checks and balances because Trump has some batshit crazy stuff that he's thinking about, and so does this knucklehead Musk. So, my advice is we need another avenue to protest. And of course, the media in this country is a disgrace and very inept. So we need to, across the board, creepy New York media and news, we have to protest at their locations for not telling the truth, not telling the whole story, poor reporting. And we have to go to Republicans since they're in charge. It's their guys running the show for the next 2 years. We got to find Republican offices and protest there. And if the GOP turns into another, if it goes from the Genocide Joe to the GOP genocide, we got to protest that stuff. We do not want our tax dollars going to killing kids and doctors and journalists by a criminal country. So that is what I'd like to see is more protesting against the terrible American media, corporation media, monopoly media. We're doing such a poor job, worse and worse every year. I remember when media was somewhat trustworthy, when it was in print or very well edited, major network television type news. It's just all corporations and commercials. So we need to protest against the terrible American lying media, and we got to start holding Republicans to account, because you know what, the judges in the courts are starting to hold Republicans to account and denying Musk and Trump some of the goofy crap that they're doing. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing, the two biggest problems in this country, I believe, is too many chemicals, too many plastics, and too much oil. It's not here. So I was going to have a prop. Okay. This is something you call single-use plastics. You're gonna get your takeaway dinner in plastic or in a water bottle. All you guys are pretty much eating out of sustainable, reusable things, plates, silverware, right? This is single use. Everybody understand the difference between single use and reusable? All our plates. Okay, so I go over here to Panda Express on occasion, and they only serve it in plastics. And I always say, bless you, give me a paper plate, because they do offer paper plates if you dine in. But everybody else uses plastics, plastic forks, big bottles, plastic this. styrofoam. It's all junk. It's all chemicals. It's probably poison to eat off of this.
All right. Professor, are you ready to speak? All right.
Are you ready?
Ernie's logging in now, but I don't know if he's having a little trouble. I'll go next for about 5 minutes. I can go next for 5 minutes.
Okay, well,
You're gonna go.
I already told Professor Lichtenbert.
All right, he's ready. If Rob's ready to go, I'll just wait for a while.
But I noticed when I was in Europe all these past years that they have a problem with plastic bottled water
Go
also,
ahead.
single use. So get
Okay,
get a water filter at home and then reusable.
okay,
And stay away from gas guzzlers. And only take one airplane trip per year. I'm gonna tell you, this, hey, free speech is still legal, I think, in this country.
it is,
Is it?
yes,
Oh, good.
but it's gotta be comprehensive. It's gotta be understandable too. And
What
well
can you
prepared.
understand?
All right, so we got Professor Lichtenbert.
Professor
coming up.
Lichtenberg's coming up.
Evening, everyone.
Use the mic, Bob.
Okay, sure. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to College Complex. It's always good to be here. Been going for many years.
louder,
almost
Bob.
as much as Sid Cohen, not quite. Sid Cohen has been going for 70 years, since he was 22 years old. He's now 92. He still comes when someone will take him. I've been going about 35 years. I'm mostly watching on Zoom. Because the old gang's not here like it used to be. I made many good friends here. So it's a great place and a great idea. Okay, but I need to get to my talk. On how to make the world a better place, and my answer in short is to make meaning. Just make meaning. That's all you need to do. And I define meaning as having an impact, a positive impact, an effect for good. There's no way you can make the whole world better. That's obvious. That's futile to try and do that. One person can't do that. How the heck can one person do that? It's just too much for one person to accomplish. Y'all have my hand out, right?
Yes,
Okay. So it's real important to focus on what good you can do. What's the most good that you can do? And after giving this much thought, much agonizing over it, I finally decided, after beholding my newborn son, that I wanted to make meaning for him and for as many people as I could. I wanted to make it the best world for him, best life, and for as many other people as I could. So here's what I found after searching for many years about how to make meaning. Try to make as much meaning as you can, mostly for other people, not just for yourself. But don't burn yourself out. Don't overdo it. Don't exhaust yourself. Don't get too tired. This is from Immanuel Kant, a great philosopher. Third best philosopher in my view. First is Plato, then Aristotle, then Kant, Immanuel Kant. And he has this idea of the practical imperative, which means don't practice too much where you think it's good. Just do as much as you can without burning yourself out. You've probably heard of this categorical imperative. That's a little different. If you went to college, took philosophy, you probably heard it. Categorical imperative is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Basically, if you put it in English, he tried to make it so no one would misunderstand him, but he ended up nobody could understand him. So the categorical imperative is just the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. And this is found in all the world's religions. The religions are interested in other people, not just their own tribe or country. But anyhow, go on. I think there's 7 main areas in which we can make the world a better place. 7 main areas. First one is human relationships. Your relationships with other people. You make things better for yourself and for them by simply aiming at a high quality relationship, aiming at love. Love. I define love as giving, giving in its highest forms, and there's many forms of love, kindness, caring, helpfulness, many other virtues. And then also, regarding relationships, you ought to try to make the other person, that's how you ought to regard the other person as special, almost sacred.
Yeah, of course.
If you're religious, it would be created by God. But one of my favorite philosophers is Martin Buber. He's my buddy Buber, I call him. But he talks about relating to the other by saying thou, which is a sacred word we only use for God these days. And do not treat the other as a it or a thing. Don't treat a human like a thing, like a body to be manipulated. A thing to be used for your own purposes. You won't make meaning that way. You won't make the world a better place. Try to say thou to as many people as you can. All right, second, to move quickly. Create a sense of community. Makes the world a better place. Makes it more meaningful. Because in a group of people, you can pursue a purpose and fellowship with these other people. 3, the third area is to speak in genuine dialogue with genuine human presence, rather than talking trivia. Is speaking in genuine dialogue on serious subjects. That makes the world more meaningful. It makes the world a better place. On the other side of the page now, number 4 is a biggie. Work takes up most of our energy, most of our working time. And here I'm following mostly Stud Sterkel, a great Chicago writer and one of my heroes. And he talks in his book Working, which I have over there. But I don't need to think about my handout. But Stud Sterkel says, people want, you should leave something behind that show that you existed on this earth, such as building a building, or raising a child, or putting out a fire. That's how the book Working ends after 650 pages. The fireman talk about he did something. He put out fires. He saved people, saved people's lives. So Doug wrote in his introduction to Working that his book on working, long book, it's 650 pages, is about violence that work does to the human spirit, as well as the body, wears out the body. It also does violence to our spirits, and he's trying to overcome that. He says the best jobs are in the worker's hands for the whole job, mostly dealing with people. And Stud says there are callings. We need something that calls us in our lives to do, not just a job to make money to pay bills. That would be ideal. By the way, how I like the name Studs. He got that from reading the book Studs Flanagan. He was crazy about that book, and he would talk about it with everyone. So he got the name Stud. Studs, great man. We were talking about him at the table for the talk. Number 5, interpret our works mostly for the emotions they express. emotions, not ideas, but they do express new ideas, great ideas too. But mostly they express deep feelings, emotions. Like, for example, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony expresses the world of power, even though Beethoven calls out for God in the Ninth Symphony. God does not answer his calls. But yet, at the end of the Ninth Symphony, Ed, could someone bring me that book, the hardcover book? At the end of the Ninth Symphony, you hear it loud and clear that Beethoven has the will to power. Thank you. He expresses the will to power, and he doesn't need God to do it. Next example, you can't see it from here, but I might pass around afterwards. Picasso sculpture in Daly Plaza downtown. You've all seen it. What does this express? Many things. Is it a woman with a angel with wings? Is it Afghan cat? Dog, I mean, Afghan dog. Looks like an Afghan dog. Could be many things. It's many interpretations. And that's like our cities. Our cities can be interpreted as many things and in many ways. Okay. And then Langston Hughes, a great black poet, he gives us an example of how to interpret a work of art, of a work of art that can be interpreted. For its emotions that express. I'll read you a bit of the poem that's in my book here. Langston Hughes writes, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Does it stink like rotten meat? That's a good metaphor, huh? Stink like rotten meat. Or maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it just explode? Another good metaphor or comparison. And I think Langston Hughes is expressing here the emotion that dream deferred causes much sorrow. If you defer your dreams for too long, you get very sad about it. I'm going to pass my book around. Open pages 54 and 55. You'll see the Langston Hughes poem. And on 55, you'll see Picasso sculpture downtown Chicago. That Daily Plaza, which you think before, of course. Okay, that's the art, which has given my life much meaning. God can be make the world better because it can make the world the best because God, the Christian God anyhow, offers eternal, I take that back, immortal. Eternal might mean forever, forward and back, but God certainly, Christian God offers immortal life. You'll never die. You'll never die after you're resurrected. And you live forever with your loved ones. How could there be a better place than that? How can you get more meaning than that, make more meaning? But we have to be very careful that there is a God, that this God does exist. And there are four main arguments for him. I'll just briefly name the four of them. First one is there's a need for a creator of the universe. There has to be a first cause, and this first cause has to be higher than all the other causes. So eventually, after all these higher causes, you have to have a highest cause. And there's nothing higher than the highest first cause. That's the argument from creation, for a creator. The universe needs a creator. There's a lot more than that, but I have to move on. 2B, the earth has a grand plan, a grand design. We call it the design argument. The first is called the cosmological argument. And C, the third argument for God is that millions of people, east and west, have claimed they've experienced God personally. They've had personal experiences of God. You only need one who is right to have that be a good argument for God's existence. But nevertheless, these arguments are strong. We have to also need to consider every day, as I do, I consider a half hour every day for the last 30, 40 years at least, whether or not God truly exists. And there are two main arguments against God's existence. The first one is evil, or bad things happening to good people. And there's a lot of that. There's no shortage of evils. As you look around, death is perhaps the biggest that everyone has to face and endure. Death. But there's many other evil things and many people suffering who do not deserve to. And then the last argument be against God's existence is the vastness of the universe. The universe is incredibly vast, much bigger than we could imagine. New telescopes have shown that. Hubble, for example. Remember Lee Hubble? Some of you remember Lee Hubble. Yeah. He says the telescope was named after him. It wasn't. He was joking. But the Hubble telescope has shown that there's billions of universes. Wait, I'm incorrect. I wish my buddy D.H. Robinson was here to correct me. I don't know if there's billions of universes or billions of galaxies. But the universe is incredibly vast, with at least billions of galaxies in existence. And so why would God care about the Earth, one planet? What happens if there's billions of planets out there? All right, moving on. My last area in which we can make much meaning is to become clear about intangibles. Think more clearly about those. Intangibles are not physical ideas or values, they're immaterial. They're intangible. You cannot touch them, but they're realities. They're mostly values like love, goodness, justice, freedom, and free will are all intangibles. And if you could get clear about any one of these, you could add a lot of meaning to your life, a lot. But it's very difficult. It takes a lot of thought to be clear about an intangible. There's a lot of arguments that intangibles do exist, but I cannot go into them now because they're too long and too difficult. They're very abstract and theoretical. So I don't have enough time to summarize them here. I like to call time terrorizes all of us. We never have enough time to do the many things we want to do. But nevertheless, we can still make time for what is important instead of killing them, like many people do. Thanks for your attention. It's a great place.
Put Ernie on next.
$10. And have more of the truth in that. And also, if you'd like to join my group of seekers, show me that the plan out here. Next time we'll be talking about the brothers Karamazov.
All right, let's give it up again for Professor Lichtenbert. All right, next up we will hear from
Ernie Norman.
Ernie Norman. Take it away, sir.
All right, Ernie, you're on.
Okay, wait a second here.
Yes.
I gotta unmute. Damn it. Hold on. Here we go. Oh, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am unmuted. I thought I was muted. I've been having technological problems today. I apologize. Things may be a little bit disjoint because of that. Hold on here another second or two. No, that's not what I want to do. Anyway, I'm going to do the best I can here with
My printer doesn't work. My computer halfway works. I didn't come in person because I'm an old-fashioned guy. I need paper or written notes, and my printer conked out. So I'm doing this from my computer screen. Young people today could give an entire 3-hour talk just using their telephone, but I have not mastered that, so I'm going ahead. The title of my talk tonight is Make the World a Better Place Through Participation. My assertion is that we can all help make the world a better place through participation and getting involved, not by sitting on the sidelines and just grousing about problems all the time. As we well know, the world has no shortage of problems at all levels. On an international, we got wars, hunger, disease, riots, and inept governments attempting to solve these problems. Out of control national government in Washington, in our case. State and local governments, which do solve problems sometimes, but at a very snail's pace, if at all. And they are oftenly marginally responsive, if at all responsible. And private companies, which we all have to deal with a lot, tend to be, some of them, not all of them, but some of them tend to be much better at promoting their products and services than actually delivering them. And landlords, most of us deal with landlords. Landlords smile a lot, but often nothing changes. And some of us even have landlords that don't even smile very nice. So how are we going to solve all of these problems? Clearly, again, here my technology is going down on me. Okay. Clearly, just one or two of us cannot bring world peace. We cannot find the cure for cancer, create responsive governments, or any of these things alone. But on smaller, more local ones, we sometimes do actually have the opportunity to make an observable difference. Now, this doesn't mean we shouldn't try and make a difference on the big problems at the higher levels. We just have to use different approaches. Smaller problems can often be tackled by one or two people, often one-on-one. I'm going to insert an example here, a kudo for someone. I believe I saw Sam Arslanovich, Sam there. I saw him walk by. Wave your hand, Sam. Sam deserves some kudos because he's an excellent example of a guy who's working on smaller problems himself and being a big help. There's a couple of senior citizens in our neighborhood that, Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, whatever, are having difficulties getting by on their own. And Sam is over there sometimes multiple times a week, taking them to dinner, making sure they take their meds, and just generally helping these people out. So let's have a little bit of a hand for Sam right to start things off. Wave your hand there, Sam. Okay, I can't see you, but everybody who's there can. Now, the bigger problems require joining groups, okay? Groups of one sort, such as national and international organizations. We know some of them, like the Red Cross and ACLU and Greenpeace, and organizations such as this that work on an international basis to solve problems. And also political parties, for as much as we like to deride our political parties, and they often deserve being derided. If we can develop relationships with people in those political parties that have influence on a higher level, including elected officials, that can often go toward solving some problems. I'm going to say more about each of these different levels and their different challenges shortly. But clearly, as I think I stated earlier, we cannot solve all of these issues alone, and some of them we may not be able to solve in our lifetimes, but we can pick our battles. We can pick our battles. We should pick our battles, and we can pick more than one. We don't have to limit ourselves to just one cause or one issue or one problem. As far as the bigger, broader problems go, the first step is knowledge, understanding the problem. And to understand what the issues are, we first have to be a good listener, a good observer, and understand the problem, not just from our point of view, but from the point of view of all the other people that are involved. To do this, we gather information. We listen to available common sources such as radio and TV. Listen to talks and interviews with people who know more than we know. And first thing we should recognize, there are people on all of these problems, as smart as we think we are, that know more about what's going on, what the issues are. Often these people were insiders, or more importantly, they were insiders, are now on the outside, and they're free to divulge more information on what the real issues are. Lectures and presentations, such as College of Complexes. We've got anybody who's a regular attendee at the College of Complexes is well on their way to being a good citizen, because it shows that you're interested in what's going on out there and learning more about it and possibly helping to do something. And there's the Geopolitical Forum. I believe that Eric Mao is there. Is Eric there? If he would wave his hand. Eric has a group called the Geopolitical Forum, which is very good. I've attended a few times, and they discuss many of these issues, often on a higher level rather than a local level. And then there's the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. They have many presentations which are worthwhile. There are a lot of other groups that do as well. This is how we can learn about the problems. The internet. I know that when I'm making a presentation, I often go to the internet. And you can get certain types of specific information easily. It's hard to imagine nowadays how one would do research of any sort for a talk or for any other reason without the internet. You know, we're spoiled that way. And of course, reading, you can do reading on the subject. Very few people read newspapers every day now, but there are some publications that are out there good, and there are specific sources you can get that can be helpful. I would stress one thing. We should look at multiple sources. We want to separate fact from opinion. In many cases, some sources are more reliable than others, and some sources are more complete than others. So on important issues, we should look to multiple sources to get the information that we choose to subscribe to. And you should analyze the problem yourself, but first analyze suggested solutions on a higher level. There are often a lot of suggested solutions out there. The Republicans have an idea on one side, the Democrats on another, or whatever the issue is. There are different groups of people that have different opinions. Try and analyze the problem from both perspectives if you can, and then decide what you think is the best. And you may find different groups of people that have different suggested solutions. Find the ones that you're most comfortable with, enjoy those people, and support those people as much as you can. Again, we're talking international organizations, maybe political parties here, developing relationships with the people who have influence on a higher level, and elected officials and high-level managers, organizational managers, who may actually be able to do something. Find out who those people are and do the best you can. You often, none of us can call the president of the United States, even if we wanted to, and get through to him. But we can sometimes get through to some people on lower levels that will work their way up. One of the main things to think of in case of these higher level problems is there is strength in numbers. Okay, we may have a great idea. We may be willing to work long hours and hard on any particular issue, but there's strength in numbers. The more people you can get together or join with and get together, the more likely you are to be able to influence a situation by influencing the people who have the power to make a change. Now let's drop down to the kind of the middle, I call them the middle level problems that are closer to home, not international crises, but still problems we have on a local level, on a city level, maybe even a state level, or sometimes even within our own building. This level, a lot of the problems are the approaches are the same, but you'll be talking to different groups instead of international organizations and trying to talk to people on a federal government level, for example. You look to local associations, neighborhood clubs, building councils, PTAs, if schools are your issue, and so on and so forth. Many local issues have groups that are advocating for one side or the other. Okay, and you can typically find these if you don't hear about them on the radio or TV. You can find them on the internet, and you can again go through the same logic, determine which of these groups have the closest views to your views, and join with them and support them. There are various ways to support these groups. You can give them money. Most of the people that I know don't have a lot of money and are not big philanthropists and donors to political parties or anything else. If you have a few bucks on the side and you have an association or a viewpoint that you really subscribe to, fine, give them a few bucks from time to time. But that's not the main way you can help. The main way you can help is with time, with yourself, giving of your time and energy and your ideas. On this level, people are more likely to listen to your ideas as opposed to the already pre-established ideas, and you can have more of an influence this way. Again, same process. Develop relationships with people who are on a level that can possibly make a change. These can be administrative managers in a private sector company, or a vendor of some sort, or in government. You're more likely to be able to talk to your alderman. I've talked to mine several times, and even to the governor. Well, the governor is a little bit harder, but you can talk to your alderman. You can often talk to your state rep, and you can talk to people on a local level that way. And you may not influence them. You may not cause them to change their mind, but you can at least get your thoughts across. Again, I'll say this many times, strength in numbers. If you can ally with people who have a view similar to yours, and when you talk to these people that have some influence, if you can let it be known, either by bringing people into their office or demonstrating in front of their office, or signing petitions or whatever. There is strength in numbers. Everybody, especially elected officials, reply to strength in numbers, and they're often looking for a good story as well. So if you can take your what you're trying to correct the problem and make a good story out of the problem and out of a possible solution, elected officials will respond to that. Again, strength in numbers. You can't do better than that. Now, voting is very important, but it is not as important as influencing other people. And that you do by joining groups, talking to people, especially at the time that elections are coming up. Talk to people, find out what their views are, make them know what your views are, and do your best to influence their view. But even more important than influencing their view, you want to find the people who have views similar to your views and make sure that they vote. That's what political action committees do. They don't so much try and go over to the other party and get their people to come to them. They go to their known supporters and voters and knock on their doors and call them by phone before an election to make sure that they do go out and vote. That's even more important than voting yourself. Voting yourself is important, but influencing others is even more important than that. I think that one of the things, if we're trying to influence a company or political viewpoint, we have to know who the people are on both sides. We have to understand what their points of view are, why they have their point of view. You have to understand. I don't want to say use the term enemy, but you have to understand the other side and where they're coming from and why, and seeing how your views and their views can reach a compromise, I suppose. I don't like the word compromise. Compromise is often the worst parts of two different solutions combined together. But nonetheless, compromise is something we have to do in life often, and see if you can reach a compromise. Again, strength in numbers. Can't say that too many times. And inform yourself. Know what the issues are on both sides, and understand how different groups look at these issues, and then join up with them accordingly. Some of the current issues that are important to me: Ukraine and Russia, Gaza and Israel. I've given a talk, in fact, at the college on that, and I'm giving a talk on April 19th at Eric Mao's group, the Geopolitical Forum, on this topic. And of course, we're all very concerned about Washington. One good thing we can say about Donald Trump is he's generated a lot more interest on the parts of a lot more people in what's going on, and a lot more people are getting involved. And not that I want to compliment Trump on too much, but that is something. Last time he won, I used to go to the 49th Ward political meetings once a month, and you get 20, 30 people maybe in a storefront office. The meeting after Trump won, they couldn't have the meeting there. They had to get a hall in a Park District field house, and there still wasn't enough room. People were out in the hall. So, credit where credit is due there in the case of Donald Trump, getting people involved that were not involved. Another thing, there are often public meetings, such as board meetings, that you can go to, city council meetings. Okay, and I know in the CHA has board meetings. You can go to these meetings, and they usually will give you a couple of minutes to speak if you want. You won't necessarily change their mind in one try, but if you're a regular at some of these meetings, they'll get to know you, and they'll be more likely to listen to you, and you may be able to have an influence that way. So get out there, go to these meetings and go to these presentations, get to know what people are talking about and saying, and let them know what you are thinking. And as a last point, let me just underline it again: strength in numbers. Don't just watch, participate.
All right.
Okay, is that it? All right, Mr. Eric Mao. There you go.
All right, let's give it up one more time for Mr.
Ernie
Norman.
Norman.
All right, next up, Eric Mao. Let's give it up for Eric Mao.
Thank you. Thanks, Ernie. Great point. And I look forward to your presentation at the Geopolitical Forum on the 19th. It's also a Saturday, early. He's going to speak in my group and make it here. That's why, just for him, we normal start time is 3. Because of him, I start at 1. So you guys can come over and join me and enjoy his presentation. So what can we do to make the world a better place? The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, they published this thing called Doomsday Clock. It was started in 1947 at the beginning of the Cold War. At the Doomsday Clock, that they write a report every January each year. They have the assessment in quantified, like doomsday. The midnight is doom. It's a catastrophe. So it started as 1947 at 7 minutes till midnight at the beginning of the Cold War. That's the backdrop. And at the end of the Cold War, which means the collapse of Soviet Union, it was at 17 minutes, for obvious reasons. You know what it is what it is today? Yes, 89 seconds, 90 seconds is last year. We have been at 90 seconds for 2 years, 2013 and 2023 and 24. And they said it was the high, the closest to midnight ever. And now it's 89 seconds. Okay, it's not getting better, any better. What? If we want to make the world a better place, the world has to survive first, right? If you want to make it better, the world is dead, and how can it be any better? So you got to keep it alive. Stay away from the nuclear catastrophe. Make the doomsday clock dial back. All right, that's what I submit. What we should do, what's important for the world to be better. So the question is, what can we do about it? What can we do to make the world better, to accomplish the thing, which is stay as far away from nuclear catastrophe as possible. Bear with me, I'll get to it. But let's not talk about why were we so close, so damn close. Cold War is over, isn't it? Why are we getting closer and closer? It's just counterintuitive. They published the two reasons geopolitically. One is Ukraine war. It got us very close. And I can give you a little detail. In general, everybody can accept wars like the Ukraine war involving the biggest nuclear power, Russia. Obviously, it's going to hold us closer to the doomsday midnight. Specifically, it will really make your heart drop. Which is, if you remember, there's some episodes during Ukraine war, U.S. support. First of all, let's get it down, okay? Ukraine war is the proxy war between U.S. and Russia. And when in a proxy war between the superpowers, two powers, it's really sucks for the other side, who has to fight the proxy instead of their real adversary, because geopolitically, that's a zero-sum game for the most part. So if you are weakened for a lot of resources, manpower, and time, you have to fight the proxy war on the other side. You're weakened. That means the other side gets stronger without fighting. You're really pissed off at that, and therefore you have to fight because they force you to that position. You can not fight. So when you fight, you want to make it worthwhile in terms of maybe acquire more territory or whatever. You want to make sure it will make you worth your while. And I give you a little episodes during the Ukraine war. We have like a forced flag bombing the the nuclear power, with biggest nuclear power in Europe, which is in Ukraine. Oh, it's done by Ukrainians, but it says the Russian did it. That sort of thing is very dangerous in terms of nuclear risk of a nuclear conflict. And U.S. supplying the HIMARS system, which is a multi-launch system that can launch both artillery shells and rockets. So they have this dispute. Russia said, you are not to supply Ukraine the munition that can reach, like long range enough, that can reach Russia territory. Otherwise, we'll consider you and I, meaning US, are directly at war. And I will do anything to defend our country, including nuclear. And also the British, but US still push the envelope. They still supply the Ukraine the longer range munition, but they told Zelensky not to use it across the border into your Russia territory. Ukraine say, yeah, okay, but they still did it a couple of times. the Biden administration say, hey, you got to stop it. Because from Zelensky's point of view, he wants to drag us in. He wants to drag the U.S. in. If he takes to risk a nuclear war, so be it. Also, the Brits, they supply the Ukrainians a type of cruise missile. I can't remember the name. That's long enough to reach Russian territory. I think Ukraine also fire across the Russian border for a couple of times. Putin said the same thing. If you let them use that against us, we'll consider you and I are directly at war. I will do anything to protect my country. So on the Western side, they kept playing this game. Well, Putin must be bluffing. So let's test him. See, he's bluffing whatever. He hasn't used any tactical nuke or anything like that. See, he's bluffing. We won. Ha ha ha. Look at Putin. He's a paper tiger. So, but they kept testing it, and so that's what's bringing the humanity closer to the doomsday. So we want to stop that. Number two, that's pulling us so close to the doomsday clock midnight is the Middle East, the Gaza situation. You said, well, Gaza, Israel is a nuclear equipped country. So when push comes to shove, Israel will use it. That's another nuclear war risk. And Israel is not shy away from pushing the US to have a war with Iran. Although Iran, at this moment, is not a nuclear country. But they will do everything to retaliate to Israel if they feel attacked to the point of existential threat. They will retaliate on Israel. And Israel, if Israel feels the existential threat or some kind of miscalculation, misunderstanding, or just bluffing, or just try to test the other side, they may use nuclear. So that's another risk for humanity from the nuclear. Plus, there are many countries, well, many is a relative term, they are incentivized or motivated to develop their nukes. Like Pakistan, India, in the late 1990s, 1998, they both became nuclear powers. They tested successfully their nuclear weapons. And that's when, as you can expect, the doomsday clock pulled closer to the midnight. And now we have Iran, North Korea. They want to protect themselves with the nukes because, let's face it, all right? I forgot to mention, in the Middle East situation, U.S. is the Israel Netanyahu is running U.S. foreign policy as far as the Middle East. So we'll do their bidding. So we're involved again. Ukraine, the Middle East, and the countries who want to arm themselves with nuclear weapons because they think that's the insurance policy for their regime against U.S. regime change. If U.S. bomb them militarily, they can. That's insurance policy for that. So they're motivated to do that. When more countries other than the nuclear superpowers, Russia, U.S., and now China, if you have other smaller countries, mid-sized powers to have nuclear weapons, you have more different situations. More nuclear war can start in more ways. So that's more risk. All right. So because they see Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Libya, they didn't have nukes. U.S. can get rid of them. It will. So they want to arm themselves in nuclear policy against like a deterrent against the U.S. militarily regime change. So what's going on in the U.S.? There's a thing called neocon. Neocon it started in the 1960s during Cold War. It's a group of Jewish academics in the international relations field. They their ideology is the US should win the Cold War, obviously, the anti-communism, and US will win the Cold War, whatever it takes. And they also, over time, they expand into think tank and State Department. And they stay there. We have politically appointed State Department leaders, as Secretary of State, and also related as national security advisors. From that level down, nowadays it's all also includes the deep state. They all was like occupied important positions by the neocon. So neocon started as a relatively small intellectual group. Now you can call it conceptually if they share this worldview, like the U.S. should be on top, no matter what, we can defeat anybody, right? Because the neocon started during Cold War, but the Cold War was over with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The neocon will not go away, of course. They say now we have a free hand. Now U.S. is the sole superpower. We can do more, and the rest is history. That's what we have today. China is the next. China is the focus. China is a threat. China is a threat, and militarily, politically, commercially, technologically, commercially, especially commercially. Now they're with the Trump administration, they emphasize commercially. And Trump, some people say, well, because it's business. I didn't jump to the conclusion because it's his businessman. You have to think like in those terms. Like I used to study computer science. I don't act like or think like computer scientists. But now it's proven. Trump does think in terms of cost and effect. He really cares about cost. So he talks less about military hegemony, but he's more on the commercial. Therefore, you have tariffs, because tariffs you can achieve some trade war kind of. It's a tool in the trade war, which is about money, mainly industry, jobs. So China developed their industry because the U.S. Well, Trump has this coalition between the working class people and the super rich billionaire oligarchs. That's just see those two levels, those two classes of people, they don't mesh together. They're entirely different. They even have conflicting interests within the country. But how does Trump pull this coalition together? How does it overcome or somehow make the conflict disappear? He needs to find a scapegoat, which is China. He tells his people, as J.D. Vance spoke this past week, in an event called American Dynamism Summit. It's a yearly summit. He had a speech. He made a speech. The main theme of his speech, the main theme of the summit is China. It's China. So they use China as a scapegoat to put the coalition together because they tell the workers, you lose your job, the factories are closed, and all the go overseas, maybe go to China because Chinese ate your lunch. China's the enemy is a threat to your job. But as a matter of fact, you lose your job not because the billionaire class, they exploit you. They outsource your job. In fact, they outsource job to China to take advantage of their cheap labor so they can make more money. The hell with the U.S. working class. But for Trump administration, they say, hey, it's China that took your job. So that's the way they use the scapegoat to erase the line or the conflict between two groups in their coalition, the billionaire oligarchs and the working class. So for the neocon, they want to defeat China militarily or otherwise. And China, as we know, is a nuclear power. So those things are just pulled up so close to the midnight of doomsday clock. So now I've come to the point. What can we do about it as individuals? As I mentioned, the State Department, the U.S. foreign policy establishment is dominated entirely by the neocon class. We are not neocons, right? We're average person. How do we defeat neocons? They're in the Washington D.C. They're in power. How do we do it, right? Like Ernie said, we have to participate. That ultimately, the participation, the numbers will count. But initially, we have to start with knowledge, like Ernie said. We need to be informed in international affairs. How do we learn about international affairs? Because it's so what we're exposed to around us. Mainstream media, mainstream academia, mainstream think tanks. It's all occupied by neocons. Wherever you go, like Chicago Council on Global Affairs, that Ernie mentioned, I go every time I have a chance. But they're neocon-dominated mainstream think tank in terms of global international affairs. But I want to go as a reference point. I don't want to know what they're talking about. So I want to know how to counter them. You just need to know your enemy. Just simply put, I still go. So I'm not precluding if you want to learn to go to the mainstream neocon kind of rhetoric. You really need to learn from them too. But the main thing, how do you learn from independent sources? Well, I personally have some independent sources. A person called Ben Norton on YouTube. He has his own YouTube channel, The Skies of Academia. There's a place, I just give you a few examples that I frequent on YouTube. On top of my own reading, that's the other thing. That's more fundamental, basic, if you're interested further. And there's another channel called TRT World. That's a Turkish-based media channel. I think they have their own media station. They have a presence on YouTube, which I love their programs called Newsmaker. So those are the things. Because the media, why is it so hard to fight? Because the media is all occupied by neocon too. Yes. TRT World. Because a person like Rupert Murdoch, the boss of the news group, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, so on and so forth, it's Australian. He's a neocon. Well, he's a newsman. Why is he a neocon? It's not academic. Just ask an Australian what it's like. It's definitely in line with neocon. If you read his publication, it's all neocon stuff, more or less. Depends on the issue. But when you read, you know you need to have the ability or interest of distinguish what's true, what's not. And of course, you can use even the worst information, the worst propaganda. It serves a reference point. That's why I go there. I go there too. I'm very diligent about it. So where do you learn the real independent sources? Like the few things that I mentioned as examples. And another thing is I have my own the Geopolitical Forum. That's a group that we get together, like-minded people. Like-minded doesn't mean we agree. That means like-minded means we're pursuing independent sources for self-education, to have the knowledge, to learn about international affairs. So you're welcome. Join us. We're on the Meetup group, Meetup platform. The group name is called the Geopolitical Forum, where Ernie's gonna give a speech 19th. But we have more events. We have joint events with the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, as frequent as they have events. we will go there and we'll hang out afterwards to continue the conversation or just hang out, grab a bite or have a drink. And so I consider that as a joint event. And we had joint event with this great institution, College of Complexes. I started coming here in, I think, November, October timeframe last year to Dr. David Renzi Steele's speech about Ukraine, about multipolar world situation. Got to know about him. I came back many times ever since. So, okay, 2 minutes. I appreciate that. 2 minutes. So we have whenever we have geopolitical related topic here at the college, I will post it on my event, on my group as an event for us. So that's another kind of joint event with the college. So I hope you more of you can join me in pursuit of independent knowledge. So because neocon cannot exist, they need a soil. We need to pull the rug under them. We need to eliminate the soil for them to exist and grow. Although we're not in the circle, right? Just 1 minute. So we need to not equip ourselves with knowledge. So they went long over time. They cannot continue to grow or exist or flourish. And through further participation, we can make the world a better place by making the world safe from nuclear conflict. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Let's hear it again for Eric. Thank you. Another round for all three of our speakers. They all did a good job. All right, so we'll get open. We're going to open up with what you guys think, and we'll start with Tim, and then we'll do Jan. Then we're going to do me.
Okay, I'm gonna stay here because I'm gonna show you a little something. All right, you guys. We've all been talking about the individuals and our causes for I am sorry, I gotta get my. We've all been talking about individuals and a lot of the causes that they represent and how to make your life better. But you know, you guys are all forgetting one thing. And I'm gonna let Bing Crosby and Bob Hope tell you about that thing. I'm gonna play a short video clip. It's about 1.5 minutes, and I think they'll illustrate very well what most of our speakers have forgotten. And we'll get it up. As soon as I get it up here, I'll be all set. And you know, okay, here we go. And okay, that's all right. We gotta just play it here. As soon as we get it going.
When two guys pull together, it's teamwork. In our sunny weather, it's teamwork. What does it take to make any business fine? You find it takes teamwork every time. Incidentally, your jokes will kill the yokels. It's teamwork. I love your hokey vocals. It's teamwork. Like Fred Astaire and Ginger and twice as sleek, we'll give them that teamwork. Cheek to cheek. Here we are, just like in Zanzibar. Still nothing, still a star. I'd start a fight, but he's right. They always pay us plenty for teamwork. We split it 80-20. That's teamwork. Yours is tax-free.
Oh, I think.
Well, others start to part and go off the beam like Siamese brothers. Like Siamese brothers. Like Siamese brothers, we'll be on each other's team. Like Brandon, like McNally, it's teamwork. Right to the final tally, it's teamwork. Although we hold each other in low esteem, we find it takes teamwork. teamwork. Hey, loaded with team. What's life without teamwork? There's no team.
Okay, I think you guys get the thing. You just need to get a little teamwork into you. When it takes to run the college together, it's called teamwork all the time. All right, go ahead. Our next rebutter, please. All right, our next rebutter, please.
Give it 2 seconds, Tim. They have to get up to the freaking thing.
I know. That's all right. It takes teamwork all the time.
Hey, I think you got to tell her to get up there again.
I know, no, it's okay.
I wanted to go through the points of Dr. Lichtenberg again because I thought they were really good. He mentioned his points were human relationships, a sense of community, genuine dialogue, which is really rare, a fulfilling job. Well, I don't think we all have control over that. And interpreting artworks. And I think, you know, because I'm old and I see young people interpreting artworks and I think they're nuts, but that's their interpretation of these artworks. You drive down the outer drive and there's a flat green person with no face or anything else, just going like this. And you think, is this art? And it's a big thing, you know, in the park district. So I think what we have to do is really be tolerant of other people's interpretations. And then I wanted to, the idea of thinking more clearly, that was really important too. I had to skip over the business about God because that's not something that I can even deal with at all. But the reason I brought all those points up is that I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago, and the people who were running this meeting were Korean Haibukisha, and do we all know that Haibukisha are the people who were in the explosion at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they survived. They were in the explosion. They were injured, or they got sick later on, or you know, they were affected by the radiation, but they have survived. And there's a wonderful book called One Sunny Day by Hideko Tamuru Snyder. She tells about her experience of having survived. She was 14 years old and was buried in the debris. And she was rescued and was dying anyway. And her father saved her life with the most unique, unbelievable way you could even imagine. I won't even go into it. The name of the book is One Sunny Day. Well, I have to tell you, he fed her the blood of a snapping turtle. And she had not kept anything down. She had diarrhea, vomiting, and everything else. And she got that blood of a snapping turtle inside of her, and that stayed. And she's now 90. And I met her on Zoom. So the whole thing about the Korean Haibukisha is that they were held as slaves in Japan. And when the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were working in the factories, and about 20,000 of them were killed in the first explosion. But there were some that survived. And we met them on Saturday night at an old folks home in Evanston. And they gave the guy, his name was Mr. Shim. He gave a wonderful speech with a wonderful translation, and it was a really nice experience. But that meeting was sponsored by Yuki Miyamoto. Doesn't sound Korean, does it? She is Japanese. Her mother was in the explosion, and she's a second generation Haibukisha. She sponsored these Koreans to come here and explain to us that Koreans were in the explosion. And so this to me is kind of symbolic about what needs to be done. because Koreans were looked upon as an inferior race in Japan, and they were held as slaves, much like our Black people were held as slaves in our country, and then they ended up being looked down on, and we think, oh, they're just, they're not doing the right thing, and they don't contribute to society well enough, and they're lazy, and all of this crap that we believe about people that we don't like. And it's really interesting that the Japanese have reconciled themselves to the Koreans. And the Koreans are going to hold a tribunal sometime in the summer, I believe. And this tribunal is named the International People's Tribunal to hold the U.S. accountable for dropping atomic bombs. And I think we need to really understand that, well, I don't want to go into the reason we dropped the bomb. And I don't want to go into the fact that the cold, is my 5 minutes over? I don't want to go into the reason we dropped the bomb, and I don't want to go into the fact that the Cold War is not over. The Cold War has been revived, and the Cold War has been revived, and we are now in another situation where we're building up our arsenal of atomic weapons. And as Eric said, we need to protect ourselves from atomic power. And he didn't, and he, thank you for saying power and not just weapons. So this is a huge story. I've got a brochure here about the tribunal that's coming up that the Korean Habakusha are going to be participating in, and I think they're actually sponsoring it. So I'll give you one of these.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I really enjoyed what the speakers had to say, and if I were to say, what I would do to make the world better, I think it would be something along the lines of things they all said. Professor Lichtenbert mentioned the categorical imperative, which is basically just the golden rule. This was also articulated in Leviticus, and it was the second greatest commandment according to Jesus. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And dependence on the whole law and the prophets are one of those commandments. Libertarians have something similar. It's called the non-aggression principle. Regarding whether or not God exists, of course he exists, because we're talking about him, aren't we? Regarding participation, political participation, I couldn't agree more with that. I think working to make the world a better place is something you have to do. So certainly get active and fight the power. Going to ward night is certainly one of those ways to, especially if you live in Chicago, to speak with your leaders. And as he said, if you go often enough, they'll get to know your name and start to take you maybe a little bit more seriously. It's good praxis. So, like, who here is a registered voter in Chicago? All right. Well, I'll pass the petition along to make a referendum to recall that makes the mayor a recallable office. And that's certainly one way we can make the world a better place, because being able to recall incompetent leaders who might make the world worse is something that we can, as people, do to keep a check on the powerful. Regarding news sources, it got me thinking about, one way we can make the world a better place is for more honesty. We have more honesty, then we don't have to worry about bias or misinformation. And we can have a more informed populace that can think about things and try to make the world a better place as well. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So certainly honesty is a good policy. And good laugh is always a good way to make the world a better place, at least for a brief period. And with Tim playing Bob Hope, a good laugh that I think would make the world a better place for just a couple hours is a film called Alias, Jesse James, starring Bob Hope. It's got one of the best climaxes of any Western comedy I've ever seen. And with that, we can bring up the next person who wishes to speak. Does anybody online want to speak?
Yeah, I'll take a shot.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's spoken thus far. I agree at a good portion of it. But anyhow, people often, I run into people I haven't seen in a while, and they say, Charlie, what have you been doing lately? And I said, I've been trying to rid the world of injustice. You know, and each of us can do that. And how do we do it? How do we rid the world of injustice and make the world a better place? I can very simply, you've got to influence or replace what I will call the deciding officials. In every operation of human activity, there generally is someone who is managing the operation called the deciding official. Now, in unions, when we have a grievance, the employees have a grievance, you always file a grievance with the person who can grant the remedy you seek. I repeat that, you file it with the person who can grant the remedy you seek. Now, what we have to do is, if we have grievances regarding our society, then we have to file these with the people who can grant the remedy we seek. Now, if they fail to do anything, I mean, you try to influence them and persuade them, and if they're reluctant, we're given no other choice but to replace them. So that's what I mean. Any issue that you take up, and we're going to be talking about this at other programs on movements and causes, and there's a multitude of organizations, but they generally exist for one reason or another, and that's to influence the deciding officials. And that's what I mean. Take any cause that you've heard tonight, and what did he say? Well, there's got to be a remedy. Otherwise, we're just kind of talking about it a lot, which I guess is cathartic and made some release or something, emotional release, but doesn't in fact remedy the situation. Doesn't affect change. There's a lot often candidates that will show up and they'll say, I am for change. There's a presidential campaign in which the candidate in the past used to always have a sign. It said change. We want change. So I guess if you can find someone who is in a position, it doesn't do any much good, you know, to talk amongst ourselves unless there's an action component to this. So that's what I mean. Now, the other question I'd like to ask is, somebody asked how many of you vote. How many of you are active participants in an organization? How many of you have leadership positions in an organization? If your answer is no or none, then maybe tomorrow look around or call me up and I can recommend a few that might be a good thing that you want to do. Now, in the minimal, you can sign up for information from those organizations, or you can join them at least monetarily for a modest amount and help them in their activities. But even more so, there's something called direct action usually gets the goods. And I highly recommend that if you want to do something to make the world a better place, there's no replacement for other than direct action. Anyhow, thank you very much. I'd like to hear from somebody else.
Okay.
Thanks, Charlie.
You're next. Good, dude.
We skipped the question and answer period. Why is that?
because Charlie told me to go into a 5-minute rebut or 5-minute.
I was gonna ask Mao about what he thinks of the MAD,
We could have questions.
mutually assured, destruction, MAD. Mutually assured destruction. I'm asking you.
This will count towards your 5 minutes. Go ahead.
What about the mutual?
He wants to know what you think about the MAD doctrine,
I
mutual.
think, it's definitely there. It's a deterrent.
It's not working like it used to. It's more risky now. Anyway,
Yeah, because
let me
more
get this.
countries are having nuclear weapons, are about to have it. That's why I mentioned it has more scenarios, more different possibilities to have a nuclear conflict than just a 1 or 2 or 3 nuclear powers.
Let me say this before he cuts me off. He's always, anyway, what can you do to make a better world? Mr. Lichtenbert was talking about the 10 commandments. I think that's a very, very good start. 10 commandments. He mentioned one of the commandments. Anyway, give donations, especially for kids, medical, and police organizations. Be an informed citizen. Read newspapers. Watch smart TV. Smart TV is really great. Listen to educational programs on radio. Elder law. Arrange power of attorneys, trusts, and wills for family and beneficiaries. Make effort to make friends and keep friends. Friends often drift away. Study rules of the road. Become a better driver and avoid traffic problems. I make lists. I make lists. I accomplish things for myself and others. Now, Trump was saying, if you have a job, prove what you did, the 5 things you did on your job last week. But I make 5 things a day. I make lists and I accomplish things. Anyway, my last is vote Republican. We must beat back the catastrophe of the Biden administration. Trump he's radical, I know. It's hard for me to really stick with him, but I support him. Trump is solving the fentanyl problem. There's almost 1 million people die of drug overdoses from the Biden let's open borders and the migrant situation. He caused that. And the $1 trillion federal deficit. He's trying to do something about that. This country can go bankrupt. And that's what they're trying to do. I don't think he should fire people and everything. Anyway, that's the vote of Trump is better than Biden to me.
All right.
All right, who's next?
All right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Robert Whitley, and I am in my last semester of getting my international relations degree, and I should be graduating in the beginning of May. And I do have a few things to say about that. I don't want to go into international relations theory or anything like that, but I also belong to the Sigma of the Rho International Relations Honor Society. I'm the treasurer. And this year, in our organization, which is affiliated with the schools I go to and the other universities around the country, it's our human development year. And what I decided to do in my human development project for my international relations honor society was to volunteer in a refugee outreach program, Exodus Worldwide. They're a local Chicago-based program. And what they do is they help refugees who are resettled by the United Nations Refugee Committee and, into Chicagoland and help them to get away from the war conflict zones that they were involved in and they were running from. Currently, I just got assigned to a refugee from Eritrea. And if you don't know about Eritrea, they had a 30-year long civil war with Ethiopia. They've been off and on with conflicts. The leader of the company is a dictator who treats the people like slaves. And my refugee spent 5 years in Tunisia in a refugee camp before he was provided asylum here in the United States. And I do want to make a side note. I don't really like the way Trump is treating all immigrants because he cut off all the aid to World Relief and organizations like that. And refugees are not your regular immigrant who crosses the border due to problems at home or whatever economic hardships. These are people who experience war, have had family members killed in front of their eyes, and such and such. And in America, we should welcome people like that who have, who've had adversity as part of being a good neighbor. In fact, the program I belong to at Excellence Worldwide is called the Good Neighbor Program. And I encourage everybody to be a good neighbor. Find a refugee, mentor them, help them with their English, give them support, emotional support. Try to do good in the world. In fact, little things like that is a great way to make the world a better place. Not solving the macro problems of the world, that's almost impossible, unless we group together in numbers, like a fellow said online here. But we can also do it on a personal level by reaching out to people who are different than us and trying to make their lives a little bit better. So I encourage everybody, adopt a refugee, get involved with Excellence Worldwide or a similar organization, and share the love. Maybe our leaders can't share love, but we as individual Americans, we can share love. And loving your neighbor is one of the most important things that we can do as a human being. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll go with Ms. Corley and then who else?
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, hi, I'm Ellen Corley, and I've been coming here quite a few years, and I really believe in free speech forum. I think that this is one important way to make the world a better place. And we've met a lot of friends here too, and really free speech. I gave a talk on it a few years back. The Berkeley Free Speech Forum. You realize you didn't need it unless it was being suppressed at Berkeley. This was during the Vietnam War, and it's being suppressed here in America now too. You hear at Northwestern, there's a professor who was standing with the Palestinians protesters. He's been there. I met a lawyer at a Palestinian event where she's trying to figure out how to protect him from them getting, forcing him out of his job. This is happening across the board. Actually, it was kind of silly sounding a couple of weeks ago. I read Kevin Barrett's, he's a great truth jihad guy that has been a 9/11 truther for many years. But he's also been the only one of the many more are coming out and telling the truth regarding the neocon Zionist ones who are really behind 9/11 and the JFK assassination and the COVID pandemic. My stepfather started the Manhattan Institute with William Casey, who we knew he was the head of the CIA and head of Reagan's administration, but we didn't. I've found out so much about him since then. As we see the world, really, I've been researching corruption for the last 10 years, and it starts at the top. Both parties are. I think the presidential candidates are just puppets, and they have been for a long time, probably since the Cold War. Robert Perry was a great investigative journalism. That's my best idea for making, the best world is investigative journalism and investigation in the courts. Investigate. Right now, we're working on an initiative a Truth Action Project. This is a group that grew out of Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Truth that got squished, and you wonder why, if you've ever read the Warren report, the 9/11 Commission report, the report on the COVID pandemic, they're just full of lies. We got to make it somehow mandatory that we have honest investigations of our America's criminal judiciary, state crimes against our own president, JFK, RFK, MLK, leaders. This was done by, we know, the Justice Department, the CIA, the FBI, the Homeland Security, the Mossad, the MI6. I think Lyndon LaRouche's group is pointing it all to the because they got stuck in jail for telling the truth about the empire, but the MI6, the Crown, the City of London, the Central Bank, the Bank of International Settlements was financing Hitler. You think we could all agree that that was bad, but they've still got all the power. They're putting use the SWIFT currency. They're coming out with these central bank digital currencies that is just total control. They're doing it directly against the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, the Saudis, we've got an invisible empire. A new world order has been in place, they say really since the Kennedy assassination, so that they did that largely. And if we know that it was the Israeli, Anglo-Zionist Israelis, because Kennedy was determined to inspect, force the Zionim, Katsa, Mossad moles who infiltrated our government and at every level to be registered as foreign agents, Foreign Agent Registration Act, and would have required that we, in 1963, get rid of Israel's 200 missiles pointing at Iran, Russia, China, and denying it. Our newspapers deny Israel is the biggest nuclear power in the world, and they need to be registered. Okay, thank you.
That's anti-Semitic.
No, it's not. Anti-Israeli is not anti-Semitic necessarily.
Yeah, I can recognize it, Ernie. And I'm going to call it out when I see it.
At the time, it's Ellen's turn to talk.
Yeah, one pool at a time. Ellen, go ahead.
Okay, hi. My name is also Ellen, but we're not related. Okay, so I wanted to talk about things from a little bit of a different perspective. I think we've had some really great ideas tonight. As I was driving here from work today, I was listening to Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. If you guys are familiar with that song. Yeah. Okay. So I think we have to think about ourselves. I'm going to talk at kind of a smaller level here. In my I've seen a lot of bad behavior by people in my life on an interpersonal level. And I think that people aren't necessarily aware that their behavior, I don't know. I think you have to start with self-reflection. You have to start with self-reflection. You have to prioritize ethics. You have to think carefully about the way you treat others. I'm nobody here, but like one time I was doing something very helpful to a relative of mine who was through no fault of her own having like a really bad year, and this other relative of mine, screamed at me at the top of, in a super nasty voice that I was a liar. Because I got some minor question wrong about some technical detail. And while I was, doing something that really greatly improved my relative's life, during a really super bad year. So, so I suppose you can't really, by the time people are adults, you can't force them to care about ethics, to care about that. But I think we do have to start when children are younger. I'm a person who I don't believe that we should just, I don't think we should like necessarily punish children, but I don't think we should just accept. It seems like people accept the bad behavior of children because, oh, well, they're children and they're just going to behave badly. But in the meanwhile, they're actually very negatively impacting the quality of other children, and sometimes adults too. I mean, when I was a child, the kids were so mean that like a substitute music teacher would started crying in class. In class, she started crying because the kids were so mean to her. So, so I think we should be self-reflective. I think humility is super important. I think we should try to empathize with others, try to see their point of view. A lot of people here, especially in the blue states and in Chicago, they're really mad at Trump, and they're really mad at Trump supporters. But I don't think that is the right you can be mad, but to go around and try to take revenge on them and take joy out of having revenge on Trump supporters, which I'm seeing people do, I don't think that's the way. That's not going to bring harmony to our world. That's not going to win people over. It's not going to win people over to your point of view. I was reminded of this really great talk I heard at the Ethical Humanist Society by this man who used to be a white supremacist. He had a very high leadership position there. But then he had a record store. And through his record store, he started coming into contact with African Americans, which he had very little contact with. And then he started like talking with them, and they'd come in and they'd say maybe their parent had died, and he started realizing that they were just like him. They were just people like him. And then he had a transformation over time. And now he spends his life, trying to help people, see the light and kind of move out of the white supremacist movement. So those are some of the things. Okay, I'll just be really quick. A couple of things I want to say. Other things I think are can be important for interpersonal relationships is trying not to assume bad intent on the other person's side unless you have some good evidence of it. Giving others the benefit of the doubt. And by the way, I also worked with refugees for quite a while. Yeah, so I admire that, and I did that myself.
All right, thanks.
All right.
All right. We got another, and do we have another after this guy?
Hi. So the one thing that I would do is I would hopefully love to see a law passed that limits the chief executive officer's salary to 100 times the salary of the average employee. Okay, right now, the chief executive officer makes anywhere from 300 to 500 times the average employee salary. And that means if somebody makes 50,000 a year, okay, they make in the tens of millions. All right. Now, what happens with that kind of salary? Well, you realize the chief executive isn't alone. He works in a corporation that also has a chief financial officer and a chief operations officer, and it's a CEO, chief executive, a chief operations officer, a chief technology officer,
And if your chief executive is making like 400 times the average salary, you would think that these other chiefs are making somewhere less, but something comparable. Something like,
Mrs. Ernie, can you up the sound? I'm having difficulty hearing the speakers. Can you up the sound on Zoom?
or 300 times the average salary. So, and then you have the people who work in the CEO suite. These are the salary, these are the all the support staff for thing is the CEO suite and everybody in and involved in the CEO suite make a lot more money than they're worth. Okay, and these people, now if you take all that money that's going to these individuals and you turn it back to the stockholders or the pension plans that own stocks in these companies, we would all benefit from them. And instead, what happens is we have to compete against all these people who have all this money for simple things like buying a home, okay, buying a car. Because these people who may work in New York, Chicago, Texas, Boston, Miami, San Jose, Los Angeles, San Francisco, these people all have second or third homes. They'll have a home in Europe, all right? They'll have a home in Montana, and we end up competing against them, and we have no chance. But everything goes up for us living. Now take a city like New York City that has a lot of this, okay? Suddenly, instead of having what existed in the 60s and 70s of a lot of activity and a lot of art and a lot of restaurants and food and a lot of joy, you have high-end restaurants. You can't get a cup of coffee for less than $10, okay? In other words, what I'm saying is these people have somehow managed to convince their friends that they're worth 400 times the average salary. And that's average. It's like the guy who took over for Starbucks was hired from, and he makes $100 million a year, his compensation, okay? Now, of the 100 million, only about 100,000 is actual salary. The rest are stock grants that they gave to him because they needed to hire him. Right? So, if there's one thing I would like to do to see to make this world a better place, is a law that limits the chief executive to 100 times the average employee. Thank you.
Okay. Who else?
Anybody else want to go up and speak? You already went. Nope, you already went. Are we going to go to, are we going to, what's the deal now? Tim?
Second round of rebuttals, or what do you want to do?
All right, I'll do a rebuttal. Well, we only get, how many we gonna do? Because we only got a half an hour.
Well, I think what we'll do is
take
after,
25
well,
minutes.
unless somebody else wants to speak, we'll let Mike wrap it up and we'll cut out a little early tonight then.
Why does he get the?
What? People got rebuttals.
Final word.
Well,
What,
the
Charlie?
restaurant closes in a half an hour.
45 minutes actually, but
Well, we should be polite and,
yeah. Well,
All right, well, America's turned into like concentrations of power.
we'll let Ernie go too, because he's was a speaker.
100 years ago, Washington, D.C. that made all the decisions. And we had 100 million people in America. Now we have 350 million people in America. And we still have 500 idiots in Washington, D.C. that are even more corrupt. So, concentration of power. just a few guys getting the kickbacks. You know how that works, under the table, over the table. Corrupt politicians, senators and representatives, there's like 535. So instead of tripling the number of representatives, which would probably be good, because most countries have many more than we do, we just got the same as we've had 100 years ago. And they've gotten more power, control more people, control more wealth, and could get more kickbacks. See what I'm saying, Eric? 100 years ago, we had 500 crooks in Washington. We still have 500. It was 100 million people. Now we have 350 million people. You would think it would have tripled with the reps. The more, yeah, it's more concentration of power and money and corruption and kickbacks. Okay, that's why America's so corrupt now. The more eyeballs, always better. Now, Western Europe's bigger than America, population-wise, economic-wise. They have newspapers all over the place, media all over the place. Well, that's the other thing I didn't mention. You know, like 5 companies control most of the media in this country, right? News, fake news, real news, so-so news. Again, concentration of power in the media. So my suggestion is go to European news, mainstream European news, instead of picking, choosing, trying to find somebody, because they have a lot of eyeballs watching what's going on, and editors, and they don't have corporations giving kickbacks, getting editors picking and choosing lies, fake news. Europe endeavors to tell the truth when it comes to important issues in the news. They have much more print, much better reporting. I don't know. Name it. The Guardian, the Reuters, BBC maybe, Financial Times, all the European, you know, English, huh? The German one? What's the other German one? The Signal? No.
Deutsche Welle.
Der Spiegel.
Deutsche Welle is the German one.
And they're all competing. And
France 24, the BBC.
All those people.
Yeah, they're all
much,
government owned.
Much better media and news.
We have the equivalent of public radio.
That's all.
That's baloney.
What?
Baloney.
You're eating baloney.
Where is the headquarters of who controls the media of the United States? What building? Where are they headquartered?
New York, where all fake news and Trump come from, and more fake news.
I think
we need New York.
I strongly disagree with you, Mike, but keep going.
You have a right to disagree. We could still have free speech. Last I checked.
Yes.
My timekeeper is here. I could just keep on talking, right?
No, I think what we'll do is we're going to let Ernie, we're going to let each of our 3 speakers give their final word. So that would mean that
Bob left, right? So I could take his time?
No.
Okay, I will.
No, we got Charlie who wants to do a little bit more. So Charlie, we'll let you go. Then we'll go to our final words from all of our speakers.
Anyway, we got to protest the poor media and these 500 creeps.
Okay, Mike, you're
500
done.
creeps in
You're
Washington.
done.
You're done, Mike. Charlie wants to go next.
And get off of oil, plastics, and chemicals.
And get you done off the platform.
Huh?
And get you done off the platform. Your time's up.
My time is up?
Yes. Remember, it takes teamwork. And we might have to do a few of us to boot you off.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Charlie, go ahead. And then we'll go.
The idea of beating up on the media is totally nonsensical. It was something invented when Trump was first campaigning for president the media, was reporting the truth about Trump. So they came up with the concept of fake news. They said, oh, it's fake news. They also said that, the facts, that's where they came up with the nonsensical. They said, oh, we have alternative facts. Now they get up there, a lefty, and they claim that all media is under control is not evident by what constitutes the media. I can listen to any radio station virtually in the United States through my computer and their news programs, what have you. There are 1,000 channels on television to choose from. You have infinite number of sources of information on the internet. You can get access now to more publications, newspapers, and magazines. Very often there's subscriptions, but more so than you ever could before outside of a library. To maintain that the media somehow could, I've asked many times, what is the agency of the government that controls the media? I never found any evidence whatsoever in any agency of the government that someone was trying to control the media. There was no evidence whatsoever. I'm not aware of the headquarters of who gets together and how do they control the media? Where are they headquartered? And do they have a staff? How do they transmit to all the program executives and editors of the United States what news is appropriate and what isn't? How do they do that? Do you have even one copy of a memorandum instructing someone in the media, like a reporter or newscaster, on what to say or do? Yet there's no substantive evidence. This is like the other one we heard, that there's the mythical New World Order. These are intellectually lazy assertions that you come up with to somewhat explain the universe. Well, they're not appropriate. To dismiss all news publishers are the same, the publishing houses have been the same as they always have been. To say that somebody's controlling these publishing houses, I have no concept of what you're discussing, as well as the magazines. You have to consider the source. Certainly, obviously, certain publications are more mainstream than others, certainly more established ones. Yes, there are going to be specialty publications put out by organizations, what have you. But their slant is usually quite apparent and not hidden or misguided, as you may claim. But anyhow, this is like some extension of the World International Conspiracy Theory, which is not an explanation of anything. Anyhow, thank you.
All right, Ernie, you got this floor. Give your final rebuttal.
Yeah. I just wanted to say a couple things. I'm sorry I wasn't there in person tonight. I really would have preferred that, but technological difficulties dictated that I work from home here. I only heard part of Lichtenbert's. I heard all of Eric Mao's talk, which I liked. I think while nuclear danger is a serious danger, I'm less worried about that, because even at their worst times, most leaders would not go ahead and start a worldwide thermonuclear war, because they understand the consequences of that. It's the old MAD defense, mutually assured destruction. It's worked now for what, 70, 80 years. The only time nuclear weapons have been used in battle was by the United States in 1945 against Japan, and nobody else had nuclear weapons. There was no danger, there was no mutually assured destruction, because nobody else had them. Since other nations have them, it's a bit of a different problem, but I agree it's a serious issue which needs to be considered. And as far as the I don't know if Eric mentioned it, that doomsday clock is down in Hyde Park. It's in an office there. I think anybody can go in and look at it. It's just an ordinary clock. It looks like from the from the outside. Anyway, and I think saying it's down to 3 seconds is a little silly. They need to somehow spread things out when they talk about that clock. The only comment I really have on Lichtenbert's talk, unfortunately, technology kept me out until the end. I would really compliment Bob, or I wouldn't necessarily compliment him so much to say as he's got guts in that he tried to explain God and heaven and the entire universe and all the galaxies, and he tried to do that in less than a 10-minute talk. That takes guts. Thanks. Bye.
All right, Eric Mao. Wrap it up.
So, the Robert, he is a longtime member of the Geopolitical Forum. I'm gonna work on getting him to have a speech in our event. And I have David Ramsey Steele spoken twice already in January and March, and Ernie, and we're gonna have him. We have others as well. I'm not gonna detail everything. So I'm coming back to end this at a high note because apparently it's a big issue for the Earth, the nuclear issue, nuclear power, in addition to nuclear weapon, and also some members of this institution, they really concerned about a nuclear weapon, nuclear powers of safety and the future. So I'm here to point you people who are interested in the direction of thorium. There's a thorium technology, there's a thorium reactor. I don't know the status. Okay, so I can cut my rebuttal for a great deal. So China, they seems to be ahead. I'm sure US is working on it. Because the thing I know is that they scheduled to have some thorium reactors in production, online, in 2030. So I don't know the status US. I hear it's safe because it doesn't create a big pressure like a nuclear reactors do. So that's safe. Also, they cannot be used to like interchangeably or extended into nuclear weapons. You have thorium reactor, you can just develop your nuclear weapons program out of it. So that's safe too. And the waste, after you expend the material, the waste is easy to store because it's not nuclear radioactive or highly nuclear radioactive. So it's better than the current nuclear technology in all aspects. And here's the kicker. China has in their territory, they have enough thorium mines for production for 60,000 years. That's mind-boggling. And the world probably have enough for 100,000 years. So take it home and simmer it. Taste it like a good wine. Have a good sleep, and maybe tomorrow you can do some research and come back and let me know because I'm really lacking a background in this area, but I just want to report this good news so we can part on a high note. Thank you.
All right.
I got it. Okay, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight. And of course, I'd like to thank Charlie. I'd like to thank Justin tonight and all of you audience members for helping to make this a successful endeavor. Remember, it takes teamwork to run a free speech forum. It takes teamwork to book the speakers. It takes teamwork to get the equipment together. It takes teamwork to moderate. And of course, takes teamwork to come with a well-prepared speech. So thank all of you for coming. And with that, the college is adjourned.
All right. Hey, Charlie.
Yes.
Can I give a talk on